you to something that happened in Bible days. God told the children of Israel when they were on their way to the promised land in the wilderness, he said to them, I'm going to give you manna from heaven. Manna will fall. This was the food they were eating. There was no food in the desert. God had to give them food from heaven. He dropped down manna from heaven. And he said to them, 6 days you are to labor. On the 7th day is a day of rest. So I don't want you working. I don't want you gathering manna on that day. So on the 6th day, I will give you twice as much manna. Now, here's the interesting thing. Every other day, he said, don't gather manna and keep for the next day. Because if you keep it for the next day, it will go bad. You couldn't keep it for the next day. You took as much as you wanted to eat for that day, because the next day it will come again. But on the 6th day, he said, gather twice as much, because you're not going to be gathering tomorrow. So he empowered the manna to stay for the next day. Can you see the power of God? On the 6th day, God put power into the manna to stay to the next day. That's wonderful. Now he's teaching them something, and then they come into the promised land. When they got into the promised land, he taught them another thing. He said, every 7 years, you must allow the land to rest. So you can cultivate your land, sow your crops, harvest your land, 6 years. But on the 7th year, he says, don't plant anything. Don't harvest anything. A whole year. The 7th year, he says, I don't want you planting anything. So how are we going to feed? He said, on the 6th year, I'll give you twice as much. He said, I'll bless your land so much you will have abundance. You have enough for the next year. God is showing his power. Imagine the orange tree that would have produced 150 fruits every year. On the 6th year, would produce 300 fruits. Suddenly, it's empowered to do beyond what it will normally do. This was what the children of Israel were enjoying. It was their normal life because God said so. Tell somebody, because God said so. Say, because God said so. Now here was the next thing. Then he said, every 7 weeks of years. You know what that means? That means 7 years times 7. That's 49 years. That means every 7 years and 7 years, 7 times. He says the 49th year, he would now sound a trumpet for the 50th year. He says, the 50th year. Now, I want you to notice something. Remember, the 49th year is a 7th year from the 777. So 49th year is a 7th year. Now, he says the 50th year is the year of Jubilee. And he says, in the year of Jubilee, I don't want you to plant anything. I don't want you to harvest anything. No working. So what are they going to eat? You think it should be the previous year, which is the 49th year. But the 49th year is a 7th year. So they're not supposed to plant anything. So they got 2 years of not planning anything. The 49th year, no planning. The 50th year, no planning. God said that 6th year before the 7th year, which will be what? That 48th year. He said, I will bless you and give you 3 years of harvest in 1 year. He said, I'll give you 3 years of harvest. Don't bother. 3 years of harvest. So that by the time your crops will be getting ready in the 9th year, you still have from the old stock. Now, this is all in the book. You can read it for yourself. Leviticus chapter 25. Just read for yourself. I'm going to read you one verse right there. Leviticus chapter 25. Oh, glory to God. Let's read verse 21. Look at what God said. He says, I will command my blessing upon you in the 6th year. I will command my blessing upon you in the 6th year. And it shall bring forth fruit for 3 years. Can God do this? Is he lying? All he needed to do was to command his blessing. That's all he said. He said, I'll command my blessing upon you, and it will bring forth fruit for 3 years. Your land will produce fruit for 3 years. Can you imagine? How many of you could go on leave for 3 years, no pay? No, but with this knowledge, you can now understand it. You can now understand what God is saying. And these were people of the old contract. Did you hear me say the old contract? Old contract. Likabarasataya langorobo zibarabababaya. Aya. Montakaraze bararara. Ayaya. You know, when things start happening like that, Mantoko zibrabe, regede lamba, radagabaya, liparasete gerabababaya. Are you still there? He said, I will command my blessing upon you in the 6th year, and it shall bring forth fruit for 3 years. It shall bring forth fruit for 3 years. So God is able to make it happen. That's why he said so. That's why he said so. It shall bring forth fruit for 3 years. Say, God can do it. Say it again, God can do it. Say, God cannot lie. He can do it.